Imagine this. A woman walks into a crowded room. She is not wearing a wedding ring, no partner by her side. Yet the air changes. People turn their heads, not because of her beauty alone, but because of something deeper, a presence, a strength, a self-possession that cannot be faked. Society whispers she's alone, but in truth she is anything but. Today we're going to explore the profound and liberating truth that the great mystic and prophet Edgar Cayce revealed about women who live alone. And by the end of this video, you may never look at solitude, independence, or even yourself the same way again. But first, if you enjoy deep explorations that challenge what you thought you knew, don't forget to subscribe. This is the kind of journey that opens your mind and nourishes your spirit. Before we go deeper, let's talk about the man whose words inspired this conversation. Edgar Cayce, 1877 to 1945, was called the Sleeping Prophet. While in trance, he gave over 14,000 readings on health, spirituality, relationships, even the future of humanity. His insights continue to astonish researchers, doctors, and seekers to this day. One of his most profound teachings, that the soul's true purpose is growth, evolution, and connection with the divine, and that this growth is not dependent on marriage, partnership, or being defined by another person. This is where it gets truly revolutionary, especially for women in a world that still tries to measure their worth by whether or not they have a partner. Picture Sarah. She's 38, lives in Lisbon, works as a designer. Friends and family often ask, "When will you settle down? When will you find someone?" The unspoken message is always the same. You're incomplete until you belong to a man. But Sarah begins to realize something. On the days she is alone, hiking by the ocean cliffs, painting late into the night, or simply reading under a tree, she feels complete, whole, alive in her own skin. Society calls this loneliness. Edgar Cayce would call it a sacred invitation. He said, "The soul is rather the soulmate of the universal consciousness than of an individual entity." In other words, your deepest partner is not another person. It is the divine within you. Let's break this down. Cayce never rejected marriage. He often said marriage can be a school for growth, but he was clear. Growth happens not because of marriage, but because of how you choose to evolve as a soul. Some will grow best in a relationship. Others will grow best in solitude. Both paths are equally valid, equally sacred. For a woman living alone, this means that your home, your career, your passions, your time, all of it can become a temple for self-discovery. And here's the kicker. Cayce taught that the soul has no gender. At the level of spirit, male and female are one, which means your worth, your power, your wholeness cannot possibly depend on whether you are paired with someone. Let's bring this down to earth with real stories. Frida Kahlo, one of the most influential artists of the 20th century, spent long stretches of her life in solitude. Though she had relationships, it was in her alone time that her art exploded with truth and pain and color. Her solitude gave the world a voice it had never heard before. Jane Austen, unmarried all her life, created novels that still define how we think about love, society, and independence. Imagine if she had believed the lie that a woman without a husband had no purpose. We would have lost some of the greatest literature ever written. And think of the countless women today who choose to live alone, not as an act of rejection, but as an act of radical affirmation. Doctors, teachers, entrepreneurs, creators, shaping lives, building futures, and discovering joy, not because someone else completes them, but because they have learned to complete themselves. Cayce emphasized 3 keys that women and men can unlock when living alone. 1. Self-mastery. When you live alone, every choice is yours. This sharpens your ability to listen to your inner guidance. The very voice Cayce said connects you with universal consciousness. 2. Service. Cayce taught that true fulfillment comes when you share your gifts. Living alone doesn't mean isolation. It often gives you more space to give freely, whether through work, creativity, or kindness. 3. Spiritual connection. Without constant external distraction, solitude becomes a doorway to meditation, prayer, creativity, all practices that Cayce insisted were the engines of soul growth. So instead of being a weakness, living alone can be one of the fastest accelerators of spiritual strength. Let's go back to Sarah. Remember her? The woman everyone pitied because she hadn't found someone? One evening, she hosts a dinner for friends. Someone makes a joke. "Sarah, when will you finally bring a man to one of these dinners?" For a moment, silence. Then Sarah smiles and replies, "I already brought someone. She's sitting right here. She is complete. She is growing. She is in love with life. And her name is Sarah." That night, her friends saw it. The glow, the serenity, the grounded power. And maybe, just maybe, they went home thinking, perhaps we've been asking the wrong question all along. Here is the climax of Cayce's insight. Your purpose is not to find someone to complete you. Your purpose is to remember that you are already whole. And from that wholeness, you can create, you can serve, you can love more authentically than ever before. Living alone is not the absence of love. It is the presence of freedom. The freedom to grow, to align with the divine within, and to become the kind of person who radiates light, whether or not anyone stands beside you. So to every woman living alone right now, you are not waiting. You are not lacking. You are not incomplete. You are on a sacred path of growth. And Edgar Cayce's words echo across time to remind you, the soul's true partner is the universal consciousness itself. If this message spoke to you, if it stirred something in your heart, don't keep it to yourself. Share this video with another woman who needs to hear it. And subscribe to this channel, because here we dive into truths that don't just inform you, they transform you. Your solitude is not your shadow, it is your strength. Own it, live it, and let it become the fire that lights your way.